And that's why I love, because you guys, and when I come out and visit certain places and towns, or even jump on other people's podcasts and talk about certain topics, it's so inspirational. And every time I do, there's always something new that comes through. Spirit of great like that, they bring something through. And this episode is no different. So let's jump into this. And like I said, come in with the open mind, be prepared to look at yourself, and be prepared to give yourself that truth pill if it needs to. Welcome, I'm Peter Williams, and for the past 10 years, I've been connecting with thousands of people from the stage and online to help them discover the importance of spiritual and energetic practices so they can thrive with confidence, clarity, and purpose. It is time to awaken your connection, align with your soul, and achieve your own inner power right here on the Inner Power Podcast. Hello, everyone, and thank you once again for tuning in to the Inner Power Podcast. I have managed to again get back in the studio after a absolute blitz run through 2 states and 2 territories in the space of 2 weeks. So it's been absolutely full on in the space of 14 days, 8 events in total. And it has been a wonderful, wonderful chance for me to get back out and connect with so many of you. Can't believe it. Some of those places, it has been 4 years since I have been there. So, and that's why I have been trying to finish all of this up before the new format kicks in 2024, which I'm super excited about. However, it's also been these trips and these events most recently that have inspired me to get back in here and talk about what we're going to be talking about today. And that is the 4 misconceptions about receiving answers. Now, what I'm talking about, the misconceptions and about the answers, I'm talking about when you, as a person, are looking in some shape or form to connect or even go and see someone to help receive the answers that you're looking for in life. The number one reason that a lot of people start to reach out or they seek out assistance with connecting in spirit is because obviously something's going on in their life or your life that you would like some assistance on or some guidance on, aka, I'd love an answer, please, Pete. This is where it all kind of comes from. So I have a lot of people, obviously, kind of reach out and whatever else. And, at the moment, my big focus is helping people to really tap in and connect for themselves, which is a beautiful thing. So over these last few events, these are kind of the common themes that have popped up. And that's why I do want to address them. So we're going to be looking at the 4 big misconceptions. As we go through this, and before we jump into each one of these, I ask that you just really have an open mind. And if something there, or what I'm about to say, resonates with you, then honor that and do not be afraid to go a little bit deeper on that. And of course, the other thing too is, as we're going through this, some of it you may or may not agree with, but I'm just asking you to have an open mind when doing this. Now, like I said, I've been lucky enough. I've been doing this since, or been personally reading for people since I was 16 years of age. Okay, I'm getting on now a little bit. As my GP says, you're past that middle age part back at you passed that 5 years ago. I was like, thanks for that. But I was well aware. But what's kind of interesting is that also I got the lovely Facebook reminder that I have been doing events and shows for 10 years solo, which is pretty huge. And I'm absolutely super, super grateful that I've had the ability and a chance not just to do it, but to continue doing it. And that's why I love, because you guys, and when I come out and visit certain places and towns, or even jump on other people's podcasts and talk about certain topics, it's so inspirational. And every time I do, there's always something new that comes through. Spirit of great like that, they bring something through. And this episode is no different. So let's jump into this. And like I said, come in with the open mind, be prepared to look at yourself, and be prepared to give yourself that truth pill if it needs to, right? Because that is the best medicine. Right, so the 4 misconceptions about receiving answers. Number 1, are you limiting yourself to who you are willing to connect with? So I'm going to repeat that. It's a long one. So, number one is, are you limiting yourself to who you are willing to connect with? This is a huge, huge thing. Every single time, like I said, just recently, this happened again and again and again. I say it before every event. I say it before every personal session. I say it before any time I jump online and do online sessions, right? It is the common thing. You need to be open about who is going to come through. The biggest thing here is that when people come along to an event or they come along to a show or you go and seek out and have a personal session, whatever it may be, more often than not, people go with the intention of, I'm going to connect with one or two particular people. Now, that's a beautiful thing. And obviously, that's a wonderful reason to reach out and go. The downside is that, of course, we do not have the ability to control who is going to come through. And there is nothing harder than kind of wanting to help you or help someone in the audience when they're not really being open to who else might be there. And so, for example, you might be wanting to connect with your mum, or maybe you're wanting to connect with your son. But even though you want to connect with them, you've got to be mindful what happens if, like, your nan or your pop comes through, or your uncle or your auntie comes through. There might even be like a best friend or someone else that you know might want to come through. And it's kind of always blows people's mind because even though those people who you're not expecting or necessarily wanting, they do come through. But the amazing part is they will still start giving you the information and answers you require. To which I'm always met with, oh my goodness, how did they know? Like they didn't know I was going through this, or they weren't alive when I was having this issue, or oh, they wouldn't know about this. And so it becomes a real kind of basic mental ego problem. And the truth is, once we're on the other side and your loved one's on the other side, doesn't matter how long they've been there, if they're on there on the other side, they have the ability to come through and help you with the information. Now, the other big thing too here is I want to point out is that sometimes it's actually done with very specific purpose with who comes through. Not the people that you want, but you're going to get the people that you need. Kind of taking a very dramatic example here, and like, please don't take this out of context. It's like for a dramatic example. I always say to people, if you are coming and you're like, things are happening at the moment. We're trying to save for a house, or we're building this house, and this is not quite happening. So we need I just need some guidance on finances and job and career and all like this. Right now, that's completely fine. A lot of us go through those particular moments in our life. But the whole thing is like when you have that person, when you have this particular issue, do you want your gambling uncle to come through? Or do you want your accountant, CPA, very wealthy grandfather, even though you might not have been close to him in real life, do you want him to come through because he has those experiences? He knows how to, work through wealth or whatever else. So even though you might not have necessarily been close to them, but they have a beautiful skill set and knowledge to offer you. And that's why I'm saying don't limit yourself to who you're willing to connect with. My piece of advice here for this first one is always be mindful of what your question is. And it kind of comes down to the fact of like, is there anyone else that you might know in the spirit world that can help you with that? Not just your mum or your dad because you're close to them or you love them, you see. You've got the ability to tap in something more. You have the opportunity to reach and call upon people who have more knowledge in particular areas. So don't dismiss that. So there you go. So number one, don't limit yourself to who you're willing to connect with. Really, really powerful. Number two, when you're seeking answers and guidance, could it be easily attained from other sources? All right. So number two, when you're seeking answers and guidance, could that information be easily obtained from other sources? So here's the misconception. The misconception comes down to, of course, I would love to speak to my mum, or I'd love to speak to my dad, my nan, my papa, whoever you have. Like the reason why people is because obviously you miss them. And not only do you miss them and obviously you love them, but the other thing too is they might have been your go-to person. And that's why, so when you come to an event or you come for a personal session, I want to speak to them because they know me and I would 100% trust what they have to say to me. Now, that's a beautiful thing. However, this is not how the spirit world and the energetic world will always work. Believe it or not, we have other available tools and we have other available connections that we can access to help give you those answers. And we can give it to you that doesn't require so much energy. Probably the best kind of analogy I can give you here is if you want to go and speak to that one person that you 100% trust, like in person, are you willing to drive 3,000 kilometers to go and have that conversation with them? Or would you kind of start asking people around you that are a little bit closer? And this is kind of how it works in energetic terms and in this world, because sometimes different modalities or different ways of connecting or seeking answers and guidance for you require different amounts of energy. And so for me personally, coming back to that analogy, if I don't have to drive 3,000 kilometers and use all that time, effort, fuel to get you the answer when I could possibly just drive down the street for 20 minutes and get you that, which one would you rather do? And this is what it's like for us. And this is also what it's like for the spirit world. They're very smart, they're very intelligent that way. They'll use other ways to bring about this information. So, what are they? A couple of easy ones, right? So, what happens is because a lot of people, again, come seeking these things, and for a lot of people, and you could be one of them listening here today, which is great. I love this because you might be going, oh my God, I didn't know this, Pete. But what happens is it's very new to them. And because it's new to you, which is completely fine because we all start somewhere, but if it's new to you, you won't really know the mechanics and you won't know how this works. And therefore, you only know what you know going, oh, well, I can get answers from my mum. And so I'll go get answers from my mum. Well, newsflash, there's actually a whole bunch of different people and spirits that are around you that have been around you since you're born, even when the other loved one that you're seeking was still alive with you. They know you better, right? Better. They know you more and they know you better than the loved one that you're seeking. These lovely people are called your guides. And these guides are energy. They are spirits who have had human existence and therefore they know how it all works. That's why they're around you. And believe it or not, you actually had an agreement and you asked them to help you in this lifetime. So guess what? They know you really, really well. So quite often for us, like I said, we can have a chat to them a lot quicker and easier than the person that you're seeking in directly. Again, that's the difference between a 20-minute drive versus driving, 2 or 3,000 kilometers away, which is going to take you days. There's a big difference there. We can access the information through them. It can be a little bit tricky because, again, a lot of people start to go, hey, well, who is it or what's their role? Yes, if you can get into that and you're willing to work with that information, brilliant. But more often than not, again, not massively necessary in terms of information. That's more to satisfy your own needs, to satisfy your own mind, and possibly to satisfy the trust factor going, how do I know where you're getting this answer from? Can I trust this answer? Because, I don't know who you're talking to. And if you're thinking like that, that's completely fine and that's normal. Come across that all the time. But the beautiful thing is that's when usually we tap into more information and we help validate it a bit further and to help you ease that part of your mind. And the great thing is to then pass on and help you. Now, this also leads us to another part of it because the truth here is as well, right? Because you remember, like, we can find the answers to the guidance, the answers to the questions that you're asking a lot quicker. And it is so true. And one of them is you. Yeah. You have the answer within inside you. I know, right? Cliche. How many of you just eye rolled on me going, oh, right, here we go. But it's so, so, so true. It is all there within us. And we all know, there's like I said, if you're willing to look yourself in the mirror and accept your own truths here, even when you're seeking guidance or an answer in any shape or form, we all know that you already have a particular or favored outcome that you're already leaning towards. Yep. 98% of the time, before you even ask or you come, you already have a notion and you already are leaning to a particular answer. It's just the truth. Because of that, if I look you dead in the eye like I would be right now, and you're asking for an answer or the guidance to the question that you're asking, I'd be like, well, you're already thinking this. This is the other option, but you're not looking at this because of this, this, and this. That's all you. All of that information, all of that understanding is coming from you, right? So please do not underestimate the ability of how much you actually already know. And again, it's about learning to trust yourself. And ultimately, that's what you're here for. You're here to have this experience and learning to connect with yourself more. That's why I'm a huge fan of teaching people that. So that's what I'm talking about there. So if you're seeking these answers and guidance, you can get this information in much easier terms, and rather than trying to complicate it and always wanting to connect or hear from one or two particular people, you have access to so much more information, right? Because let's face it, as much as we know Google, if you've got a question, everybody says, oh, well, did you Google it? Did you Google it? It's great. It's become part of our vernacular, but we also know there are other search engines out there. And it's just up to, whether we want to explore them or not. The other thing too is we have different ways of finding the information. So that's number 2, right? So just remember that, if you're seeking those things, they can or could they be obtained by other sources more easily? That's a huge one. So think about that. So before you put pressure on yourself or you put pressure on your past loved one to come through and start presenting you with these particular answers or guidance, you probably already have access to a lot more there than what you already think. Give them a little bit of space, give them the chance, and don't expect them to drive the 2,000 kilometers just to give you something because you really like them. Because, when there's someone there who's just down the road who can give you that answer. And, you might not have to go anywhere because you'll have the answer yourself anyway. Case in point, just saying. Right. So, number 3. This is another important one. Are you doing what's required to bridge the gap? Are you doing what's required to bridge the gap? Now, where this comes in is because, again, people rock up and say, hey, I'd like these answers or this guidance. But how much of the work or effort are you putting in to work towards this? Because if you're coming in blind or you're coming with the attitude, oh, they'll just tell me, then that is really not taking any sense of self-responsibility or self-accountability for your actions. You can, of course, do that if you want, but I guarantee you that it'll come back to bite you later on. And then there'll come a point where all of a sudden you will run out of getting answers. The whole point is you are here to learn and discover so much about yourself, the way that you think, the way that you feel, and the way that you work, and the way that you live your life. So you have to be willing to bridge the gap, and you must be also willing to do some of the work or the effort. Now, a couple of things that can do this or help you, so a couple of points here, okay, is you've got to work on your belief. If you don't have the belief that you're going to receive a sign, or you don't have the belief that what you're feeling is true, you've got too much self-doubt, for example, you're not going to get very far. And to be honest, if your belief is that low, doesn't matter what happens. And I've had this, it doesn't matter what happens. I could give you answers. I could connect with a loved one that you really do know, and you go, wow, but you'll still be there going, nah, not feeling it, whatever. And it completely feels as though it has not hit home. It's a little bit like, wow, did you not understand the enormity of them coming through to give this to you? And some people don't. I've had people just completely look at me blank going, oh, I'm not 100% sure. It's just amazing sometimes when I get that, when there's so many people who'd love the connection, but when they finally get one and it really is something about that can help them, they don't want to take it on board. That's fine. But your belief will have a massive impact. So you've got to work on your own belief with the connection or understanding, because it has a huge part to play in helping you to receive the guidance and answers that you're looking for. Along with the belief comes the open mind. Talked about that. You've heard me say it a few times, even in this episode. You'll hear me say it across all different episodes. When I'm talking, you have to have an open mind. If you don't have an open mind, you're never ever going to be open, or you're never going to have the ability to take on new things. Hence, if you don't have an open mind, if an uncle comes through that you do know, but they're presenting you with the information that you're looking for, you're going to doubt them because you're not being open enough to kind of go, well, why them? Instead of saying why them, ask yourself, well, why not? Are they there? Are they connected? Are they giving you the information that you want? Does it make sense? Well, then why not? If you're saying why, it's just because it's not what you want, okay? We have to remove ourselves from the situation, and we have to have an open mind. Be very, very careful with that one as well. It is a big trap that a lot of people fall into. Now, of course, the other thing too is to help bridge the gap. All right. So you're ready to receive these answers or kind of start working with it more, or even helping yourself with number two, right? Is do some daily work, whatever it may be. Just do something to help attune yourself and attune your energy and your mind to being able to receive. It doesn't matter whether you're seeing someone for information, like I said, coming to a personal session or an event, or even one-on-one, right? Doesn't matter. The whole point is you need to do some of the work to be able to receive. Because if you're not ready, doesn't matter what comes through. It'll be like a brick wall, or it'll be like water off a duck's back, and defeats the whole purpose. Again, I've seen that so many times. I've had people literally come back to me like a month later or 2 months later in tears going, what happened? And then, I said, did you listen to the recording? And then they do. And then they go, oh my goodness, I did everything that you told me not to do. Well, it's like, what can I do? This is like, I literally gave you a recording. Like, if you can go off and listen to that. It's there so you can go back through the information. But if you're not going to do that and you're not willing to receive, of course, you're going to make the same mistakes again. But you start going, well, then what's the point? So it's another way of bridging the gap. So you can do little things. If you meditation, just a 5-minute meditation, which a lot of people have just gone through as well, which is great. Maybe it's just a basic gratitude, or maybe just connecting with nature. There are heaps of different ways that you can start to bridge that gap. Just do it for you. And my biggest encouragement is there. If that's something that you need to work on, do something that is fun. Do something that you enjoy. Don't make it harder, because life is hard enough as it is. Do something that you actually enjoy doing. That will help you bridge the gap a lot more and a lot faster. All right. So that's number 3. Now, last but not least, number 4. Are you possibly expecting too much too quick, or being hard on yourself? This one is huge. Are you expecting too much too quick, or are you being hard on yourself? So let me break this down. Number 1 is you might be new to this journey, or maybe what happens is when we're in a space or a situation of slight confusion, lack of clarity, or dilemma, we kick in and go, sweet, I want to get some answers. I want to get some clarity. And I'm going to ask the universe. I'm going to ask spirit. I'm going to ask my loved ones. I want to know, right? Then you ask, where's my answer? What? Well, I haven't heard anything. It's been like 2 minutes and I haven't seen a sign. What's going on? And just like, this is what happens. I don't know how many times people come to me or reach out and go, I've been waiting. I've asked the question, but I haven't received anything. I say, well, when did you ask? They're like, last night. And this is like the very next morning at 7:30 in the morning. I'm like, can you give it a chance? You've got to remember, when you're asking like that, you're leaving the message on message bank. So they may check their message and they've got other stuff to do. They might go, well, we'll get to that. Because let's face it, right? Our own reality. Do you literally reply and call back every single time a message immediately comes through? Or do you tell yourself, I'll get to that later? And for some of us, later can be like really later. So you've got to ask yourself that. Now, I know there's someone there. I can sense it and I can hear it go, I do. I answer and I reply. Beautiful. If you're that person, well done. Hats off to you. But let's just say the majority of us are not like that. And sometimes it's like that in the spirit world as well. So Don't overcomplicate it. Don't overthink it. The other thing too is, so you got to have some patience. Patience is key. You can't just expect everything to happen at a whim. It doesn't work like that, especially in, energetic terms. So if you are going to ask, beautiful, definitely ask. You're allowed to ask, but you also have to be patient and allow time for those answers to filter through, all those signs that you're looking for to filter. Just give yourself and your loved ones some time. Now, of course, then comes the second part here. You could be just too hard on yourself. This is a huge one. And this is the biggest block. When you start to get hard on yourself by saying, oh, I'm not receiving anything, or maybe they don't want to answer me, or I'm not worthy of getting an answer. I don't feel them around me anymore, and maybe they don't love it. Oh, this pains me. It really, really pains me when I hear people get into this headspace, because none of it is true. Not a single part of it. It is literally just you getting caught up in your head, and you're being too hard on yourself. You're being too impatient. And when you get into that energy and frequency, you are cutting yourself off. Not going to help the situation, and it doesn't matter. Personal session, online, bigger event, doesn't matter. You are cutting yourself off, and they don't want that for you. And I know that anybody who is working, including myself, we don't want that for you. So it's really important to check your headspace and make sure that you're not being too hard on yourself and you're not expecting too much too quick, right? This is a pretty kind of jam-packed thing. Like I said, it was inspired by my last round of shows. Been amazing, and I just want to help as many people understand this. And I really do hope that even if you fall into one or more of these kind of misconceptions, hopefully this can help you just to break out of that. Hopefully it can help you to move from this space of, I don't really know, or my level of expectations too high, to, you know what? I'm going to try. I'm going to do a little bit of the work myself. I'm going to keep an open mind. I'm going to keep my belief up. And then you start to see those results. It's really, really important. Those are the 4 misconceptions. And of course, like I said, they're pretty generally applicable, but I'd love to hear, because I'd love to hear from you to know whether any of these apply to you. And if they do, feel free to reach out, drop us an email, or send us a message on good old the IG or Facebook, because I'd love to hear, because it's a really interesting space to be in. And I know that if you do, rest assured, you're not the only one. Okay, you're not alone in this. And just because you do doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you, and it doesn't mean anything bad. It's just saying, hey, let's look at this and let's shift you into a better space. Let's shift you into a beautiful energy, vibration, and frequency where you can start to receive. So you can start to get the clarity and the guidance that not only you're looking for, but you deserve. So let's do that. And this is where it starts. So again, thanks for tuning in. It's been wonderful. And of course, if I see you on the road, come up and say hi. Always love to see what's going on. And of course, if there's any particular topics that you'd love me to chat, again, feel free to message me and I'd love to help you out. But again, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. And I really hope this helps. And I can't wait. And I know some of you are going to get some amazing results and shift into that frequency I was just talking about. So if you do, have fun with it. And remember, guys, just be open. They're there. They help you. And again, you deserve it.